Hey everyone, it's Uncle Jonathan, your favorite internet uncle. I know I've been kind of working some audio issues out. I just uploaded. Hopefully, it'll be my last video with bad audio. I got this cool little lavalier mic, and it's hooked into my phone. And if I can figure out how to sync everything should be all right. I've been sick all week. That's no fun at all. Just a little cold thing, but boy, it drags you down. Let me tell you, I used to get colds all the time back when I worked in my last office job over 10 years ago. And man, I just remember you could hear there's always people at the kids too. And they come in coughing and sneezing. And boy, it's not like the movies where everybody has like this big 6 foot by 6 foot cubicle with 5 foot high walls. I mean, all the places I worked at, I mean, you had to be somebody real important to have that much space. I mean, they'd put us. One place was almost like cattle stalls. I mean, it was literally like, you know, you had a desk and like 2.5, 3 feet in front of you. The next guy's right there. And let me tell you, man, you could just track the sickness just going around the office, and it would just eventually end up on your aisle. And next thing you know, you're sick and coming into work. And whew, I did not miss those days at all. Uh, I love working from home. I love working for myself, especially when you think about that. So it's been a good day. It's been a really good day, though. It's the first day that I've pretty much felt about 80%. And, oh, this light's a little bright, killing me. Just got to get it over just a little bit. There we go. So I woke up today and I didn't feel good enough to go hunting. So I decided that I'd take a little drive out. Went out to CMP Marksmanship Park, shot at their unknown distance range, which is basically a bunch of metal targets, various ranges that aren't marked from 20 yards all the way out to over 600 yards. And I got to use my rangefinder, and I really couldn't tell if I was hitting anything any further than 200 yards, but got my scope zeroed in at 200, and so it was a lot of fun to go out there and make sure this thing's still recording. Yeah, it's still recording. It was a lot of fun to go out there and make sure that my gun was sighted in and everything was working the way I wanted to. So it's pretty gratifying. It gives you a lot of confidence. I encourage you, if you're getting into hunting or getting into firearms, you gotta just take those days where you just go out. And then on the way home, I got 2 brisket sandwiches from Buc-ee's, which was delicious, and stopped off by a local park that has an archery range. And for the most part, it was just me, and I got to really get good at with my bow, and had a really nice grouping, especially about 30 yards, 40 yards. I kind of impressed myself. So it was a real nice day. Then got home about dark and just been working on some videos, and thought I'd make one today about something that I seem to have kicked off a hornet's nest. So if you follow me on my personal account, I got in some beef. Well, first, I always love the reactions to Pearl H. Pearl Davis, Pearl's hot takes. I don't agree with everything she says, and I don't know how much of it she says for shock value, but she's a bit of a comedian, but she's also a bit of an absurdist, and she points, she pricks at the things that people just don't feel safe pointing at. And that's what I love about her. I think she's hilarious. And I think the reactions to her are even more comical. And so she's been on this crusade where she will quote post a picture of a woman in an outfit, and she's hashtagging it I deem, and she'll say I deem this appropriate for a wife and a mother, or I deem this inappropriate. Most of them are inappropriate. She is calling out these various women, and the reactions have been like a lot of women just showing themselves off, and not not necessarily what we would think of as provocative, but definitely 20, 30, 40 years would be thought of as a bit provocative. But a lot of it, I'll be honest, is pretty normal for what women will wear today. And just women just being like feeling personally attacked and just kind of being just bratty about it, to be honest, for lack of a better word. And it's funny because it kind of proves her point that she'll make general criticisms about society and culture and how women are, and women will read that, internalize it, and feel a need to push back like a upset 5-year old. And it's really funny because it kind of just cycles and proves her points, her some of her larger points, about the differences between men and women. So I'll say this: there is definitely a big disconnect, and I think what the disconnect is. Well, let me tell you first how I stepped in it. So how I step in it is she actually quote tweeted a picture of Laura Trump, I guess one of the Trump daughter-in-laws, and it wasn't that bad. It was a beach picture. I think she had like a midriff on, and Pearl's doing her thing. I deemed this inappropriate, and a couple of I guess you know second rate Trump babe hanger-ons or whatever. There's a couple of girls. I don't knock them. They're trying to. They're called, I think, mostly peaceful Latinas. They're trying to do their thing. They're trying to get internet famous. Blah 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 blah. They love Trump. Yada yada yada. And nothing too special. I think they got like 20,000 followers. So I guess they're trying, right? And you know, one thing you'll learn about being Twitter famous is it's a lot easier to get followers as a woman than a guy. There's another difference we can talk about, but anyways, let's not talk about that right now. So they took exception to her post because obviously it involved a Trump, and their whole shtick is, Trump is, Jesus coming back from heaven. I guess I don't know. And so they felt attacked, I guess, through proxy, because their whole shtick is that they're these Trump fans, and here she is attacking one of their saints there, and so I made a comment. I don't have an exact comment, but basically I said, well, hey, she, this is her point, is that you don't guys see she's talking about modesty and what men find attractive, not what a couple of cackling hens down in Miami think. So it turned into a real nasty exchange, and I guess I felt kind of up for an argument sometimes. And I took the bait, and it went back and forth until I guess I tried not to make it personal. I tried to keep it, but they wanted to personally attack me. I feel like I won because they had to block me. I didn't run. I went tit for tat, and they're the ones that couldn't take the heat. But in the process, I was called, and I have updated my bio, my personal account. I am officially now a genetically inferior whale from Kentucky. So that is now my bio. I wear that badge with honor. Um, I, I I just never thought that I would be labeled a genetically inferior whale from Kentucky, but I kind of like the way that sounds, so I think I'm going to keep that label if those girls don't mind. Um, but to the larger point, in that I was trying to make that resulted in these women just attacking me, or woman, whoever it was. It's two girls, and who knows which one I was talking to on account. I don't really care. The point I was making was that you know Pearl is trying to inform women that we don't really give a shit about your fake eyelashes, your Botox. I mean, if you just look at some of these women that just have go overboard with the plastic surgery and the fake lips, and they look like the Joker, you're not doing that for men. I mean, if you're like a solid 7.5, you're already there for 99% of the men walking outside. You're attractive enough. And, people talked about this, like, guys have a level. It really doesn't matter how far above it you are, as long as you meet the criteria. Um, but yeah, I mean, men are obviously attracted to physical beauty. That's not anything I can disagree with. But the thing is that this over the top, it's like, I guess it's kind of like women might look at guys and go like, well, you need a truck. Well, wait a second. Why do you need the truck with the lift on it? Then okay, why do you need the truck with the dual? I don't understand. What does the big knobby tires do? I don't understand. Why does it have to be four wheel drive? Why does it have to be red? Why do you need the lights up across the top? Right? So women, y'all have your thing. So you're like, wait a second. All you need is a vehicle that you can put something in the bed, right? That tows, right? Okay. So that's where it becomes about aesthetics more than pragmatism. And women have 100% jumped the shark. They don't even see where that line is. Now, of course, every woman wants to look decent, right? Y'all are always going to take a shower, comb your hair, brush your hair, put on some makeup, probably before you even go out to Walmart. Well, some of y'all do. Uh, my Walmart, that might not apply. But point being is that there is a level of conscientiousness, right? Conscientiousness. That I trim my beard if you hadn't noticed. I probably need to trim it a little again. Conscientiousness, right? That we all exercise before we want to be seen in the world. Um, that might not always apply for me, but I understand that. What I'm talking about is going overboard and thinking, well, if a little bit of lip filler here is good, then 10 times that lip filler must be good, right? No, it's not. And we don't care. We think you just look stupid. As a matter of fact, it's a signal to us that you're probably extremely vain and extremely sensitive. And actually, there are some men that are pretty dark that will actually start manipulating you knowing that. They'll actually purposely insult your looks. Not to say I've ever done that. Just knowing that that's a way they can get to you, even though, to be honest, you might be the best looking thing that's talked to them in a month. So, where is all this going? Where is it coming from? It's you women are doing it for yourselves. And that's the whole point. And in that process, you're absolutely 100% degrading yourself. You're 100% taking yourself out of what I would call the matrimonial market. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't a guy that's going to marry you. Oh, there is a sucker born every minute, as P.T. Barnum would say. So the feedback is not really getting back to the women. And that's where social pressure, I think, comes in. And I think Pearl recognizes that social pressure works on women. Social pressure is how women have managed other women. It's not the men. If you think, I mean, I'm just thinking about the things that pass now. 20 years ago, an OnlyFans account. Let's say, I was young 20 years ago, and just imagining in my groups, occasionally, you may hear of a woman that did like a porn shoot or did some racy calendar shoot, or maybe even a girl that did hardcore porn. Now, most of those girls were strippers and on drugs, so it was kind of like, but even in that circle, that was pretty out there, man. That was hardcore. Like, even for a stripper, um, to think that, and it wasn't really something that you would even bring up. It was almost like, um, it was kind of an out of bounds subject, you know. I mean, you would not even find girls that did that. I remember meeting one girl that was pretty open about it, and I was like maybe 2006. And let me tell you, when I was younger, I'd been around. Uncle Jonathan, I know it's hard to believe, but I'd been in all the bars, I'd been in all the strip clubs, I've been around all the drug dealers and drug addicts and alcoholics, and that was kind of my world. And I was in rock and roll, I was in music, I worked in bars, I worked in clubs, and worked in restaurants. And I can tell you, there's exactly one person that I can think of that was open about her career, and she actually was, flying out to LA, once a month or so ever so often to do a shoot, and then would fly back. But it wasn't celebrated. It wasn't anything that anybody be open about it. Now you got, you can go to your elementary school, and there's a soccer mom dropping off a kid with her OnlyFans, handle in the back of her SUV. That is a major, major shift. And it wasn't the men. Trust me, the men would have sat there just like they do today, would have sat there and hung on every word that girl said if she wanted to talk about her porn career. Okay, or that calendar shoot, or that weird risque bondage magazine that she shot for. They would have sat there. They would not have judged. Or at least not in a way that she would not have gotten that feedback, right? The pressure all came from other women. Other women wouldn't want to be friends with her. They're afraid she was going to put the hoo-ha on their man, or just they would judge her. And sometimes it seemed a little harsh. I was a young guy. I was, Mr. Open-minded. Oh, what's the big deal? It's just sex. So I get it, but let me tell you, it wasn't from the men. It was from the women. The women controlled that. I mean the young women in their 20s, and I don't mean that long ago. I mean like in the 2000s, in the 90s. Imagine what it was like in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. Go back to Adam and Eve. It's been the women. So don't blame us men. We just do what we do. So I think what Pearl is trying to do is reinstitute. So anyways, kind of out of this conversation, because this chick just totally just attacked me and told me I would never mate with her and I'd never get with her. And I was like, that's, yeah, I mean, granted, yeah, I'm probably old enough to be this chick's dad, so yeah, I can understand that. I'm probably not what she's looking for, and she's definitely not what I'm looking for, and I'm past the age of running down anything that has legs. So it really didn't hurt my feelings. I had to explain to this woman, like, I'm a guy, like, you don't understand how much rejection a man deals with. Like, it's part of it. It's like baseball. If you get up there and you make contact with the ball, every third time, you're in the Hall of Fame. So, most guys are out there, and we're like in the minor leagues, about to end up taking a job selling insurance next week. I mean, most guys deal with rejection on a level that women would just absolutely not understand. And, some of it is we're made to do it. Some of it is we're forced to do it. It's not easy, but, it's like anything else. You realize you don't get what you want unless you can put up with what it takes to get there. So the overall thing is like, well, what is this big society shift that I think that Pearl, I think, sees it like she's trying to kind of rectify? Um, I think what it is it's female dominance. So if you look at it, there's always a hierarchy, whether you want to admit it or not. Okay, if you show up and you are, let's say you show up to a nice restaurant, and you're just the average Joe like me, and there's no tables left, right? You're going to get turned away on a busy Saturday night. Okay, you show up and you're somebody important, right? You're Elon Musk, you're the president, you're Donald Trump. Some people think he's the president still, whatever. Uh, all of a sudden the restaurant's going to find a table for you, right? Oh, so sorry, Mr. Musk. You know what? I think we have a table ready, right? And they're going to go back there and tell somebody, get out. Okay? There's a hierarchy. You're going to get treated different because you're perceived as more important. Now, male hierarchies, those are pretty obvious. That falls along the line of, skills, money, power, which all really comes back from skills, right? You can solve problems, you invent something, you run a business, you do something that benefits a lot of people, that makes a lot of money, and then with that you climb up the hierarchy. Female dominance. Well, this is the problem that women are running into. They spend a lot of time educating themselves in college, putting a lot of money in career, but it still doesn't mean a lot, right, to other women. What is in the world of female hierarchy and dominance? Well, I can tell you what it used to be. And if you think about, before all the rapid changes we've had, a woman's status in her community, you can say it was tied to her husband, but I don't think that's completely fair. I think it was more tied to her family and her being, that foundation of a good family. Um, you know, 2 kids and a dog and a nice home and a white picket fence and and a respectable husband, a decent man, right? For so long, from the beginning of time to just very recently. And then, as women, took more of a role in the workplace, obviously there was that juggling act of working and caring for children and being a wife, which, we can argue about that all day, but it was still, I mean, even in the 90s when women felt that they needed to work and have a career as well, uh, her primary status, it was all nothing if you didn't have a family and a home to come home to. So much of acquiring that required a woman to be attractive to her man, to attract that kind of man, right? Not the convict down the street. You had to be able to be attractive to the guy that went to college, or the guy that had a good plumbing business, or the guy that knew how to do something and get paid well for it and could provide for a family. If you couldn't attract that guy, then it didn't matter if homeboy down the street or old Jethro, who just got paroled for the 5th time for cooking meth, thought you were a good catch. That wasn't what you were looking for. So women, had that social pressure, and they had to keep in mind that there were some rules, there were some boundaries there, right? Now, for some reason, well, that isn't necessary. I think some of it's cultural and some of it's social, but the part of attracting that worthy mate for women is no longer part of the equation. So, how do they achieve that female dominance? It's the internet. It's being famous. It's getting attention. And attention has become currency. And social media has become the IV needle that they can inject into their lives for attention. And they just trying to fill out with as much content. If that means, OnlyFans, if that means, putting your open relationship out there for the public to see, if that means, whatever, there's no shame in it, because if you can't put it in that needle and shove it up your arm, then what good is it, right? So they're constantly looking for new ways to get more and more attention, and that is how they register dominance over other females. How many likes do I get? And we see this with the young girls and teenagers. This has been a big problem. Some of the social media companies have been talked about removing likes. Well, now what we got is women that have grown up in that environment are now adults. Excuse me. And the adults that have succumbed to that are raising the next generation. So where does that leave us? I don't know. Women I think for one of the first times in history that I can think of, women have absolutely no interest in what men want. They don't need to. So you may say it's a good thing, you may say it's a bad thing. I'm a little black-pilled on it. I think it's societal collapse. I think women turning into wives and mothers are the foundation of civilization. You don't have a civilization unless you have wives and mothers. And it sounds even a little weird saying it because we've all been programmed to think that that is the opposite of what it is. There is no more important job than being a wife or a mother. Well, one, wife should come before mother. And that's not me being the morality police. That's just stability. And if you take away the government programs, you take away, the courts and everything like that, which not saying people shouldn't be held responsible or accountable, but when everything else goes away, let's say the apocalypse happens tomorrow, a nuclear bomb, whatever, you watch how fast women would turn back to worrying about what men want if the survival of those children were dependent on who they mated with. You would see things change so fast. OnlyFans be out of business next day because the game would change back. So I hate to say it, but women, we're all dependent on each other. And I guess that's where I want to end up with this, is we're all dependent on each other. Men need women, women need men. That's, undisputable. But women have had a substitute, and that substitute is the government. That substitute is how we have restructured society to where it's not that they're not dependent on something, they're just depending on the men or the society in general to support them and to continue to tell them they're oppressed, so it makes sense. And even when they're miserable and they don't have a family and they're too ugly for any subscribers and they get too old and fat and ugly for anyone to subscribe to their OnlyFans account anymore, they'll be left, filling out a job application to work at the gas station overnight and with no children, no long-term committed mate that loves them and cares for them. And, they'll just be miserable. I think there's going to be a suicide epidemic here in like 10, 20 years of lonely, middle-aged women that just have bought into all this. So if you're one that hasn't, well, good for you. But, you could just tell the programming is just so deep. And hey, we can talk about it. Look, I'm a biggest Alex Jones fan there is. I listen to him every day. And, he talks about globalism and global conspiracies and all this stuff. And, I do think that there is, and it may be legitimate concern about overpopulation on this planet. We are on a planet with limited resources. Let's be honest. We're very innovative. I mean, you got to keep it in perspective, but at some point, there has to be a point. I mean, I'm out in the woods and I'm infatuated with biology and habitat. And one of the biggest things about it is seeing how, left unchecked, without any intervention, the way of nature is for an animal population not to balance it out. I mean, this whole myth about the earth being in balance, man, watch what happens with deer. They will eat out, they will change the dynamics of everything. They will literally breed until they have a collapse themselves, to where there's no more food and they'll collapse, and then another animal will come in and start filling the gap, and then they'll have to fight their populations to rebuild against that. And this doesn't happen just with deer, it happens with all animals. It happens on big levels, on little levels, all the time. And there's no reason to think that humans, that we might not be any different, that we might just get to this point where we just continue to grow, 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 grow. If you look, there's more people alive. I think they say there's more people alive right now on Earth than there has been like the previous, 6,000-7,000 years. Think about that. You go back, there's like 9 billion people on Earth right now. Let's look at let's see here. What was the population of the Earth? But let's get some perspective on this. Make sure I'm still recording. Yes, we are. Okay. Earth population. Okay, we are at almost 8 billion. Or some people say 8.1 billion. As of today, the 8.1 billion. Here's the world population clock. 8 billion. Okay, so how long ago was it when we were at 4 billion? Let's see. Half the population we got now. 1974. That is only a few years before I was born. So in my lifetime, in my lifetime, the world population will definitely double. Now think about that. It took from the first person, let's just say you believe civilization started 6,000 years ago. We're most fundamentalist Christians think, okay? Even though that's probably not true, it's probably a lot longer than that, but let's just say 6,000 years. It took 5,900 and some odd years for the population to get to 4 billion. And then it took just what? Another 45, 46, 47 years to double that? Do you see? That's an exponential rate of growth. That is just going up, 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 up. And even though it does look like the world yearly growth rate did start to slow down around the 60s with the invention of the birth control pill, it still is overall going up. And so even if you reduce it down to 1% growth a year, well, 1% of several billion is a lot more than 1% of several hundred million. I'll give you some perspective. So let's think about, let's look at this here. 1930. We can kind of relate to that. That wasn't that long ago. My grandparents were born around that time. World population was 2 billion. 2. We're at 8. 2. It took until 1804, after the Revolutionary War, when the country was almost 25, 30 years old, to get to 1 billion. 1804. All the history, the pyramids, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Indians, the conquistadors, all that stuff happened long, 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 long before, thousands and thousands of years, to 1804 to get to 1 billion. And in a little bit over 200 years, 8 times that, what it took thousands of years to get to. So there is more people probably alive right now than if you would have gone back 100 years, taken all the people that lived and died and brought them back at once. You probably don't have as many people as you got right now. Now, the interesting part is that a lot of this growth is in India, of course, Africa, That's the growth. But as far as total number of people, you got countries like India, China, very big countries. The United States is third, but we're way behind India and China. There is a lot of people. They're about neck and neck, about 1.4 billion. Wow, it's a lot of people. But so the interesting thing is, when do we reach that point? Now I'm getting lost in all this other data. The interesting thing is, when do we hit the point to where we start running out of resources? And this is what I'm saying. I don't agree with the globalists at all, because I think overall their plan is evil. But I can see how the powers that be can look at a situation where you need a soft landing here. Because if there is a point where you got too many people, then the only way the situation works itself out is violently and through starvation. And neither one of those are good for people in charge and power, because that means a lot of instability, and they'll probably go out with it. So if you were to try to make a soft landing, right, you're basically going to manipulate things so people stretch out that period between childhood and starting a family. Does it sound on track now? So what do? You got to convince people that having a family, getting married, is not the key to happiness. It's not the key to stability, emotionally, financially, physically. You got to convince them that all this stuff is dumb, or you can put it off, or you need to. And who's in charge of that more than anyone? Because let me tell you, guys, we're ready to start a family any minute. I'm 45. I got no children. The right woman comes in here with the right attitude and the right opportunity, I'm all for it. Just like I was when I was 17. Nothing has changed, and I'll probably be that way till I'm dead. Women, on the other hand, it's not my fault. Y'all got a window. Y'all got a short window. Now, sure, things like the pill, things like birth control have given you a lot more control over delaying that, which is a rational thing for women to want to do. And then now with things like in vitro fertilization, stuff like that, has actually given a lot of women that can afford it a chance to extend it, which also created another situation that I saw a lot 10 years ago of women waiting longer and then having to pick men with higher incomes that could afford such treatments because the only reason they wanted to get married. That's a whole nother conversation. I thought things were bad then. Things have gone from bad to worse, because now women are just interested in this domination of the social hierarchy. And the average marriage is lasting, guys and gals, exactly 7 years in the United States, which is just about enough time to get married, have a couple of kids. And they start, getting into school age. You realize you don't want any more. And then if you look at the average woman getting married at, let's say, 30, you're married for 7 years, you're 37, you got a 3-year-old, you got a 5-year-old, you're not having any more. So guys, we're getting kind of used and abused here. And the fact is just that women just do not see any social status connected to being a part of a nuclear family, which is a husband and a wife, a father and a mother, and the children. They feel like they can detach from that and they lose no status. As a matter of fact, I think some see that as a hindrance, to be honest, because the attention is currency. So, I think of the Kardashians are a perfect example of this. I have nothing against any of them personally, but the mother has groomed all those daughters to the men. The men change out, but the status never changes. It goes up and up and up because the mother has made sure that these girls know that they must always be in the spotlight. Not girls, they're ladies, they're women, but they must always be in the spotlight. They must always be on the headlines. There's no such thing as bad press coverage, and they know what they're doing. Don't be mistaken. They know what they're doing. Anyone that lets video cameras tape their whole life and go around all day following them, they know what they're doing. The men can come and go. It's just like another episode or another chapter of the book, but their status will stay the same as long as they can maintain that attention and keep getting that currency coming in. That's all it's about. So the game has changed. So I don't know where that leads us, and I hate to generalize and speak in such broad strokes, but I mean that's the way it is, and so which led to the I guess the final thing that actually one of my friends posted, and a lot of women are finding very shocking, which I find it shocking that they find it shocking. When I spoke some truth and I said, look, here's the reality. Most men right now would walk through a wall for a woman. I hate giving numbers to women because it's so stupid, but would walk through a woman that they may consider a 6 or a 5 or whatever, with some virtue, like moral virtue, like you're a good person, like you have traits that I value as a man. You are you're honest, you're accountable, you're dependable, you're compassionate, not in the fake whatever's cool thing, but like you empathize, you see that I'm having a bad day. You can tell when other people are, and you think of ways you can actually help them in real practical ways, not, meaningless, stuff that just makes you look good. You have character, is what we used to say. Have character, don't be a character, right? But the fact of the matter is, and I see it all the time, there's some really great women out there. I have friends that are really great people, and I even have friends that I may have even had opportunities with. I'm not going to name any names or things I could have pursued, and I didn't. Just when the right time, right place for me. But I knew they were good people, and to watch them find a guy who, because a lot more guys than you think, there is a shortage of virtuous women. And that was my point. Because when a guy finds a woman interested in him with that character and that quality, and these women think that they have to be an 8 or a 9 and have to be getting all this crazy attention from OnlyFans or strange men on the internet to be desirable, that is the biggest load of crap out there. As a matter of fact, that's a red flag. I mean, we'll try to tell y'all, but y'all scream at us and tell us to shut up. So, okay, we're not going to tell you. But Uncle Jonathan will tell you. Like, if there's actually women that are too hot. Fathers used to tell their sons this stuff. Don't marry a woman that's too pretty. I'm telling you, it's a real thing, right? Because it's not worth it, right? It'll be too much trouble. High maintenance. We called them high maintenance. When's the last time you heard the word high maintenance? We used to use that all the time when I was younger. Oh, man. Yeah, she's cute, she's pretty and all, but look, man, she's high maintenance. The juice ain't worth the squeeze. What men are looking for when they're ready to settle down, and a lot of them are a lot sooner than y'all think, the problem with men is I don't think it's really men aren't ready to settle down. I think men just don't know what they need to settle down. It was like I told my friend, look, we chase 8s, 9s, whatever we think they are, 10s, whatever, until we realize, excuse me, until we realize that there's a 6 or 7 over there, right, that has actually what it takes for a good relationship. And we're fine. Trust me, we're fine. Any guy that isn't or that cheats, well, that's on him. And a guy that will cheat on a 6 will cheat on a 10. That's just the honest to God truth. The cost associated, even if a man wanted to, and this gets into why men cheat and why women cheat. Even if a man was just somehow ran into someone he just found to be the most attractive woman in the world, okay, just for sex, which is a high, up our hierarchy of needs and desires, right? Let's be honest. Even if it's even though for most rational men, the price of destroying your family, going through that process, tearing up what you've spent years to build, and then attempting to replace it, right? It's too high. It's like for us winning the lottery twice. Remember that rejection rate I told you about? Yeah, I can find another person like my wife. Doesn't mean she'll want anything to do with me. That's the world. That's how the game is. And women don't understand that. A lot of women don't understand. A lot of good women don't even understand that. That the cost for us to replace a dependable, loving mate is extremely high. And I'm not just talking about divorce and child support. I'm talking about the time, the years, the dating, the process, and there's no guarantee. It's like saying, hey, you won the lottery. Let's go take that $1,000,000 and let's go bet it on the Super Bowl next week. And look, if you lose it, I mean, right? You won the lottery once, you'll win it again, right? Nobody would do that. No one would do that. That's the proposition for most men if they're in a good committed relationship with a decently attractive woman. And I see it all the time. A woman with good character that is not self-absorbed and is not playing this other game, there are wonderful men out there for that woman. There's some scumbags too, but there's a lot more good men, and a lot of it's just because women aren't even trying. They're not even trying, and so then the men aren't even trying, and so now we got this logjam where nobody's screwing, nobody's dating, nobody's falling in love, nobody's making babies, nobody's getting married. Everybody's just sitting there looking at your dirty pictures on OnlyFans and jerking off. What kind of damn world is that? This is hell, man. So, my generation, Gen X, we were like the horn dog generation. We were just, throwing off the constraints of everything. And, we were probably one of the most promiscuous generations. I think statistically, you look at like teenage pregnancy and promiscuity kind of climaxed with us, and it's actually gone down. And I never thought I'd be in a world where, young people aren't having enough sex, and that's a problem. And you guys are just killing yourselves. I'm old. I had my fun. I'm okay. If I never, ever, ever have another date with a lady, I'm fine. I will not complain. I've had my fun, But I will say, on the other hand, I'm open to opportunity, but there's just not a lot out there, you know? It's like you're talking about going Bigfoot hunting. Everybody talks about it, but I never seen one. Now, you start showing me a couple, I might be like, well, it might be worth the trip. But that's how it is from Uncle Jonathan. And Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I definitely enjoyed talking to you today. And whether you hate me or love me, agree with me or not, feel free to hit me up on my personal Twitter account. It is, what is my handle on there? Let's see. I'll probably post more on there than anywhere else. Let's see. I am on Twitter, my personal account, at Return of Poncho. And as always, you can always follow and hit me up on at Uncle Jonathan TV on Twitter, or we call it X now. And I'll try to get good about posting more stuff on there, but usually I only post on there when I post a video. I'll usually repost on my personal Return of Poncho account as well. But anyways, God loves you. So do I. And, good grief, people. Look, you gotta think about your own happiness and your own life. And, it takes a lot of years and seeing a lot of stupid bullshit to really have your own mind and be as hard headed and as much of an asshole as I've grown to be. But let me tell you, it's worth it. And, just don't be afraid. Sometimes, you have these things in your gut that you're like, yeah, it's not right, but you can't quite articulate it. Think about those things, The cool thing about this internet stuff is, when I was young, I didn't have access to all these different thoughts. And yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit that people put out there. Some people probably think I'm insane, and I might be. But that's for a different episode. Point being, you got to learn to think for yourself. Anyone that's telling you they know 100% absolutely what the truth is and what you should be doing is they're probably looking out for their own interests and not yours. And I'll always tell you, think for yourself. Don't believe me? Go out there, do some stupid shit. That's what I did. How do you think I got to be this smart? But just remember, this is an interesting world now where people have more access to your brain. They have more access to your attention than they've ever had in the history of the world. That includes me. So think carefully about what you hear. Think carefully about what people say. Hold that up. Is somebody manipulating you? Is somebody trying to sell you something to fit their own agenda? Because they will. They don't care about you. They'll toss you away. Not like your uncle does. All right. God bless y'all. Be safe. Go on some dates. Make love. Do something. This shit's crazy. Out.